How's it going? I'm here at the old Daniel Boone Village in Hillsborough, North Carolina. That's now abandoned pretty much because it just sold for $16.4 million, something in that, somewhere in that region. Nevertheless, it sold for quite a bit of money. But it is kind of sad. I can understand, you know, money talks, but this place is sentimental to me because when we moved from Texas in the early 80s, when I was pretty little, this is the first place we lived, and I'll talk to you more about that as we go along, but I'm going to kind of show you and talk to you about what this place used to be and what it became through the years. So stick with me, and we'll walk around and check it out. As you can see, a lot of this is in bad condition now, but believe it or not, in the 60s through the 80s, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was, I would say the 60s probably saw its best times because it was sort of a Tweetsie Railroad type of theme park in the 60s. It had a train that went through here. It was called the Daniel Boone Railroad, and it went all the way through here. And they had a cowboy and Indian kind of show they would put on for people. And it's sort of like, just like Tweetsie Railroad does in Boone, North Carolina. But it has a real kind of Western, kind of authentic look to it. That's what I always liked about it. And when we moved here in the early 80s, it still had, they still had a petting zoo. And I remember petting the goats when I was real little. And we lived in the campground. The campground was way back there. And it's just now, the roads and the power lines still exist, but there's no travel trailers anymore. Most of these little buildings through the years, from what I remember, were always antique shops. A lot of antique, as you can see, antique mall. So I used to come here with my mom in the 90s, and even after we moved away from the campground and we ended up getting a regular home, and we'd come here, and it was a good place to come shopping for antiques. So, but as you can see, that was an antique shop, that was, and of course that was. I wanted to show you these cabins. Huh. Oh wow. Booker, David Booker. Passed away. I guess somebody lived. So I think somebody lived in here at one time. I thought one of these buildings had a water wheel in it, or there used to be like an old water wheel, but I don't know. So look at that cabin up there. Somebody lived in that for a good while, but all that's where let's walk up here. This is where the campground actually would have been, where we lived back in 83. We moved here from Texas in 83, and this is it. This is like the road, and my grandparents too lived here. Wow, that's actually a cool little cabin. Look at that stone fireplace. Pretty cool. Look at this. Wow. Oh, look at that old Timex case. A year ago there was a lot of old vehicles. Mr. Freeland, James Freeland, who used to own this place for many years, he's been gone now for, I think he passed away in the late 80s. But he had all kinds of old wagons that dated back to the late 19th century. And they were all, just not long ago, these old buildings were filled with them. Judy Garland, you can look at this. Meet Me in St. Louis. The old trolley that was supposedly used in Meet Me in St. Louis was in here. Was kept in this very building. And that's a shame that poster's ripped like that. Maybe they can try to fix it, kind of draw it in. That's a nice poster of her though. It really is a shame. Anyway, but all this, and the Mexican restaurant there, that's the old Gatewood house. Then it became a Mexican restaurant, which is one of my favorite Mexican restaurants. It was Pablo Viejo. Used to be the Gatewood house. It was actually supposedly George Washington stayed here in this very house because it was a prominent North Carolina family, the Gatewoods. Thank y'all so much for checking me out, and hope you enjoyed. Like I said, I'm sad to see all this go, but money talks, especially $16 million. Who could turn that down? A lot of these buildings are kind of, they always say when they build a house or a building, they have a life expectancy. And it's always sad to see things go, but sometimes it's just the inevitability of time, we just have to say goodbye sometimes, and it sucks, but what can we do? I will miss the Daniel Boone Village. And I don't know when they're going to tear this down. It could be here for another half a year. It could be here for another few weeks. I don't know. But I wanted to go and do this now and share with you some of my memories, childhood memories, And I've been enjoying this up until, now. Heck, the Wendy's we eat out here in town is just down the hill. So I appreciate you viewing, and I will see you soon.